we, Bank of Japan, made a decision to change our monetary policy framework last week. We still expect the price movement in coming years will around 2%. That means we don't see any interest rate hike necessary. So that means we will keep the monetary situation very accommodative for a while. But at the same time, we are predicting that our global GDP growth will going around 1.5% for coming years. That's higher than our potential growth rate. So our main focus for the future must be how we can raise the potential growth rate.
Don't imagine that what Japan is doing is kind of chasing the Federal Reserve and boosting interest rates really rapidly to try to get a handle on what looks like runaway inflation. That's going to be a kind of long, slow, gradual, very stable approach to monetary policy. Jasper, let me turn to you. You and I have been talking about the Japanese economy for about 3 decades together now, and I have learned so much from you. You have been a resident of Japan for all these many years. You've been through many of these cycles, as we were joking in the green room. Every 6 years, as the Japanese economy seems to kind of stir to life, suddenly you're popular and people are calling you, and then they're not again. So we're definitely at a cycle where Japan is the hot property, certainly in Asia. Lots of money that previously went to China is now sloshing into Japan. This is kind of an unusual moment, but what's different about this rally from others that you've seen in the past?
So what's different this time? And it is different. And so I got the data of the best and the brightest in Japan. If you look at the elite bureaucrats, right, the young men and women who join the Ministry of Finance, METI, the Bank of Japan, when they're in their early 20s after university, and you look at how many of these young men and women quit while they're in their 20s and 30s, and you see a flat line. Nobody quits. But over the last 4 or 5 years, this line has shot up very dramatically. So you see that the elite, the young, the next generation of Japan is now taking risk. And then it gets better. Where do these young men and women go? No, they do not go to Mitsubishi Corporation. No, they do not go to JP Morgan. 2/3 of them go to startups. And that tells you that something is different. We had, over the last 30 years, a lot of issues that needed to be worked out in the Japanese economy. And of course, people were very risk averse. Now, people are actually taking risk. And the fact that the labor market is actually showing liquidity. You can show last year that of the leading companies in Japan, of the Fortune 500 companies, that all of them had more mid-career hires than graduate intakes. And again, that tells you that the tables have turned. The labor market has now become a buyer's market from the individual's perspective. And as this most important asset of the economy, which is labor, that's the key part of capital. As that actually becomes more liquid and moves, from low performance to high performance, that's where the excitement comes from. Let me do another thing. The generational change in Japan is enormous. Over the last year and a half, when you look at the age of the new CEOs that have been appointed by the leading companies in Japan, by listed companies, the age of the CEO has dropped from 69 to 57, which is again creating a mobility and is also freeing Japan from this post-bubble deflation legacy that they were stuck in. And the result? Record metabolism, record amount of M&A activity, record amount of MBO, management buyout, record amount of IPO activity, and most importantly, and this is your point about the potential growth rate, you actually see domestic capital formation, domestic business investment actually at a historic high. So you've got corporate Japan reinvesting in Japan. Yes, you've got TSMC building a chip factory in record time down in Kyushu, but on top of that, you've got leading companies like Furukawa Electric, like Shiseido, actually building new factories in Japan. We're back.
Really interesting. So, Jasmyn, I want to ask you specifically about this point about AI and Japan. We're going to hear later tonight from Kai-Fu Lee, who's famous for advancing this thesis in his book AI Superpower, that the world is kind of headed to this era in which you have two giant producers of AI, the US and China, because they have access to vast pools of data, and that data is the new oil of the future. So Japan is a medium-sized market, 130 million people. It's a different language than English or Chinese. I know you're not an AI expert, but how does that impact its ability to generate innovative AI? And how do you see that playing out in terms of productivity? I mean,
but look, I mean, this is all very exciting. There's technological progress.
Yeah.
20 years ago, it was the internet, and now it's like, it's a new version of the internet. And the Japanese are very, very good at adopting this because, as was pointed out, the Japanese don't have a problem with technology.
Right.
One of the most, seriously competitive consumer markets in the world, which is what Japan is, right? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And I think Japan as a hub to actually train up human skills, human capital for the rest of Asia, that's going to be a very, very important theme over the next decade going forward. AI, sure, but AI is something that happens everywhere in the world. Every nation, every economy has to come to grips with this new technology. What is specific about Japan is the reality that, yes, kaikoku, yes, the country is actually opening up.
You mentioned that the economy looks like it's growing above, its potential. Yeah. What is its potential, and how much longer do you think it can continue to grow above potential?
So for 2 or 3 decades, our potential growth rate is hovering around 0.5% or something. Very slightly positive, but not over the 1%.
Yeah.
But if we can conquer those challenges, aging populations, some metabolism kind of things, probably we can reach above 1% or more than that.
Wow.
I don't say we can equally strong with the US or something, but still higher.
Yeah, this is the key point. I mean, this is not a high-growth economy. Right. I'm more bullish than you, not than the Bank of Japan, which is supposed to be conservative. I think the potential growth rate is about 1.25%. When I say that in front of economists, they always throw me out of the room. But look at the amount of investment and at the amount of labor mobilization, including immigration, that actually is going on. Right? But the key issue, right, from sort of a Japanese perspective, over the next couple of years, in my personal opinion, I actually think that the risk that the Bank of Japan is behind the curve, right? That indeed, yes, you're cautious. Yes, after 30 years of feeding on the trough of zero interest rates, you want to be careful. It's like putting somebody out of the emergency ward. But the reality of the structural tightness in the labor market, right, is probably raising, in my opinion, the risk of a wage price spiral. And that's actually why the yen continues to be very weak. Right. Because, real interest rates, right, actually continue, right, to move against the Japanese yen, right, because inflation is running way faster and potential inflation is running way faster than is anticipated.
First, I want to give a shout out to the one and only MS from the emails. Man, you've been killing it with helping me out with the coverage. I so welcome that. God bless you, brother, for helping me out. Anybody else that wants to help me out with stuff like this, it is more than appreciated. It helps take off the heavy workload, right? So yeah, MS, you got to come over to YouTube at some point, or X. We'd love to have you over on the live comments, but we get it. Everybody's busy. And I do appreciate you from the emails. With that said, let's start off the outline. NTT Jasmy, what the heck is this all about? You got to listen to this. This is good stuff. It's going to be a solid outline. Smash that like. Telling you flat out, you're going to enjoy the coverage tonight when it comes to Jasmy, Junction, the whole shebang. So let's pull this up. This is old, but it's going to make sense because you got to start off with a good outline, right? This right here, you recognize this gentleman, and this is Hidehiko Kakanuma. He's the board director in charge of product service planning, corporate planning, and marketing. Says after joining Sumitomo Bank, currently Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, he was transferred to GR HomeNet Corporation, currently NTT Plala Inc., where he was engaged in the launch of the ISP business, right? Internet service provider business, for those of you guys out there wondering about some of this stuff. He, of course, joined Jasmy back in 2022. He's got a lot of background, obviously, Sony style, Sony marketing, Sony life insurance, right? So, you see him in the pictures. A lot of times he doesn't get the honorable mention. We'll get the honorable mentions tonight. Let's jump into this for a second because you're going to want to pay attention to this as well. And yeah, it's a blast in the past, but I want to also point this out. Shout out to Lil Bidman also in regards to the research. Let's pull this up. So Lil Bidman pointed out 2 years ago the NTT Communications website was selling the Jasmy Secure PC. And, it shows some things, right? So we're going to take you to that as well. Just in case you feel as though NTT never did anything, we'll share the past and even the present. Look at this for a second. You will see here that they had a notice regarding the change of NTT X Store name. And back then, Jasmy Secure PC Agent Pro JS01 M0P01 has a price and all this stuff. And again, back then it was out of stock. But the point was, it was listed, right? It had product features, all this stuff, right? Jasmy Secure PC. Where am I going with this? Well, where I'm going to go with this is some interesting things, to say the least, because we're going to now take you to from a blast from the past to the near future. Here we go. Let's go ahead and translate this from Japanese to English. And what you will see here is very, very interesting. At least I think so. So regarding price revision of smart data platform cloud server, when? July 2024. What the heck is this all about? Well, for those that are nerding it out, you're going to see here a link I'm going to drop into the comments. And boom, there you go. And basically speaking, it is from ntt.com/about-us. Tacoma Business, NTT Communications, but NTT Communications Corporation, herein referred to as NTT Com, had revised the fees for some of the license and resale menus of Smart Data Platform Cloud Server, hereinafter referred to as SDPF Cloud Server, starting from July 2024. And it says NTT Com will continue to work further to improve their services to customers. What about target services? Look at this for a second. The following is from the SDPF Cloud Server. And you have, for example, vSphere. You have Hyper-V. Hyper-V is a server for Windows Server for Hyper-V on Windows Server. Virtual servers, physical servers, all this stuff. Middleware, this reference, Oracle, all these things, right? But as you get further down into some of this stuff, you will see here that they have these revisions and how it's basically going to be applied from July 1st of 2024 and how they're going to revise the rates automatically to be applied to customers who are already using the service. So I thought I would point out some of this stuff because, again, you got to keep in mind, these sites that would sell the actual product, right? As we get more into this, this is straight from global.ntt. And it talks about the key to sustainable growth from space. I know it sounds nuts. I'll also drop this into the comments. And it goes on to mention innovation for a sustainable future. Some of this talk seems kind of nuts, and I understand that. Not everybody's on board with some of the things that are basically presented. But what you'll see here is definitely worth noting, definitely worth getting into. So, innovation for sustainable future. From space, using ION to break through the limits of spatialization. They talk about their technology, how it focuses on speed, volume, information processing, and how they approach the whole thing of, the strain of the planet. But remember how we talked about Jasmy when it comes to the whole thing about decarbonization and so on? Well, ION tech will extend into space as NTT seeks to create an independent, decarbonized, and self-sustainable infrastructure course in space. And this infrastructure in itself, being able to build on optical wireless communication and be able to connect to the ground through optical technology, say what you want, very interesting to get into why or how this all comes together, for example, with Jasmy. But they have the capability to allow development of the beyond 5G/6G mobile network, where high altitude parameter stations, which are referred to as HAPS, could cover the terrestrial communication bands throughout Japan and even the stratosphere of like low Earth orbits. Guys, I don't know if you how long you guys have been around watching. There's a lot of newcomers, but myself and Menelagar talked about a lot about this for a few different deep dives. This is again an update, if you will, in regards to this, especially coming into summer 2024. Yeah, it's going to get better. Look at this for a second. This is going to enable real-time observation of Earth, and talks about space-based sustainable data centers. You don't think these data centers are going to obviously be inputting in tons of data? Look at this for a second. The project is focused on enabling real-time transmission, imagery data from space. Remember how we talked about those CMOS image sensors and stuff like that? Remember how we talked about Tadashi Morita with his exclusive patents that basically acquire that technology? Who's Tadashi Morita if you're new? He's part of Jasmy. This could, in principle, be achieved by sending more observation satellites into space. However, there are numerous satellites who are attempting to transmit data. Problems will arise with increased lag time. Currently, observation satellites take 90 minutes to circle the globe, so data transmission of images can take days or even weeks to reach Earth. As a result, many images are discarded without being used. With geostationary satellite images, they can be transmitted to the base stations on Earth, instantly making it possible to better predict and track the course of advanced extreme weather events. Then it goes on to mention how NTT comes into it. But before we get to that part, the key thing is understanding how they analyze the data and how fast they're going to do that compared to today's means, right? So NTT states that they can reduce the exchange of large volumes of data between Earth and space by speeding up the process transfer times. NTT satellites and a new space and Earth sensing platform. Look at this for a second. Are we now reading into some things? This new sensing platform will allow them to use low orbit satellite technology to collect data from IoT terminals. Aha. Yeah, that's right. We talk about utility in motion. There's some examples. So these terminals, where are they? They're positioned around Earth. Has that not caught your attention? Yeah, I can appreciate people that take the time to send me this stuff. Let's jump more into this for a second. MSU rock. Okay, just want to state that. So this is going to allow the collection of this information. Environmental, by the way. Data from farms, offshore wind terminals, autonomous vehicles to learn, predict, and even prevent some of the things that, need to be prevented. Now, when we get into this part about ION, they combine low power photonics, electronics, and convergence technology with a computing platform that can immediately analyze data. They have observation satellites that are the main satellites that generate data. Optical data relays aim to transmit the data and generate those by these satellites to the ground in real time. Cloud servers that carry out computing process will be placed next to the networks on the ground. The same concept will be applied in space by installing computing functions next to the data relay. Combining these two functions creates a data center. How about this for a second? How about creating a data ecosystem? Because if you're having it, all these IoT devices, and then you're having that data literally go right to a cloud solution. I know we're thinking of the cloud literally up in the sky, but in reality, cloud as in these servers at these data centers collecting them all, and you have something that needs to collect all the data. I don't know, maybe a personal data locker. Don't overthink it. But you love how it all comes into full circle through the actual ecosystem. So I think that's valid. As I jump more into this from what was presented from MS and also, Little Bidman and so on, you will see that their concept of being able to make this possible from space does seem like it is possible. How? Because they have new optical technology that makes data communications faster, reduces electricity consumption, and like it says, up to 1/100th of today's volumes. Now, I don't have the citation today because hopefully some people pay attention to this stuff. And if you're brand new, you can always watch the older videos. But again, Tadashi Morita, when we talk about, like standards, it mentioned with Tadashi Morita that he's an expert when it comes to low voltage, like data sets and so on. We talk about DC microgrids, but on the LV, as in low voltage, you understand how it all comes together. I think you might have a little bit of an idea. But look at this. Again, straight from global.ntt.com. And that is to reduce the carbon loads harnessing solar power for the electricity used for data processing. Back to the whole thing of 5G, they want to have no service interruptions. Even when it comes to natural disasters, I mean, think about Japan, for instance. I mean, what they had to deal with earthquakes, tsunamis, and so on. But even mobile coverage, they want to push further beyond 5G. They want to introduce 6G. My goodness. And there's initiatives underway to expand coverage beyond the oceans and even the air. Okay, they had trials back in 2023 where they got started. But they have an independent, carbon-free, autonomous space infrastructure that they plan to launch in 2025, with initial demonstration trials getting started in 2023. So again, this is another example, just in case you missed the quant coverage of the night, because you're only here for the Jasmyn. Understanding the players that already have built the frameworks and now are testing it out. All roads still lead to 2025 of being where it's finalized, or as I would say, the utility that's in motion. I understand there's some crazy things that are happening in the world as we speak, right, with all this war, but I think this is definitely worth pointing out. As we jump more into what we have on the outline, you will also see that they got this whole thing of promising to connect vastness of space using light to deliver the ultimate eco-friendly infrastructure and shift away from terrestrial energy sources. Again, talk about Web3, you got to take it to the next level. And by powering the world with newer, clearer, greener way via space, NTT explores innovation that converts solar energy transmitted from even outer space into the Earth into electric power. That is profound. That is pretty amazing. Remember all the references we mentioned about ESG goals? It won't let me highlight that. But remember the whole thing with Jasmy and ESG? It's all there. Take a look into it. Jump into the next part. What we have, here's a little bit more. This is straight from NIACJP. It's a press release that came out, I think not that long ago. Yeah, March 18th. I'm going to drop that into the comments as well. And here you go. And basically speaking, there was a project announced on March 18th this year about a project selected by JST and ANR for what, guys? For a Japan-France Sicorp Edge AI accelerating R&D AI-based autonomous wireless access control technology. Oh my goodness. Wow. Can we blow that up more? Yes, we can. Let's do that. So, you know how many times, not just myself, the guys in our community, Little Bidman, you name it, IC Amphibian, Dip Metaverse, Brian, a whole slew of us, right? Shout out to Rob, Crypto Future. Again, tons of us. Jesse, KR Finance, right? We've been talking for the longest time when it comes to Jasmy and Edge AI. Where do we take it to the next level? Is it Junction? I think it is. But again, understanding action, reaction, supply and demand forces that are at play, working in the background. You're not seeing some of this information, maybe because it's not just simply being reported, or maybe researchers are not looking in the right areas, but these guys are. They definitely are. Look what's mentioned here. This is cool stuff. So you have this whole thing, even a report from Tokyo, and it talks about the NII, which is the National Institute of Informatics, and NTT, because we just talked about them. They're in cooperation with the CNRS, Institut de Recherche and Inform, I'm not going to say it right anyway, but it's French, and Waveley. They have been selected through an open call proposal by the Japan Science and Technology Agency. An open call? Open call is a call for action. Huh. JST and even the French National Research Agency, which is the ANR, under the framework of Japan-France Strategic International Collaborative Research Program, which is Sicorp, for what? Edge AI? Our selected research project, Light Swift, will give rise to power-saving lightweight edge AI technology for jointly exploiting wireless communications, sensing, and smart factories. Smart factories. Again, remember when Jasmy first popped, went over a penny. Action, reaction. You have those semiconductor factories in Japan. Bills becoming acts. Acts are, of course, laws. This is very much worth paying attention to. So we blow this up, you're going to see more details, because I'm going to talk about the research and how they developed a lightweight edge AI-based technology that can operate even on small devices and terminals with limited computation and battery capabilities, as well as deep learning, reinforcement, learning-based wireless access technology, stemming from the joint research outcomes we have achieved so far. Doesn't that spell everything that we're looking forward to, especially when it comes to scaling up with this, DPIN and AI and the whole thing of like Junction, and also understanding where we're going to go here soon, hopefully by the summer when it comes to Jasmy. So it says they're going to advance the research on intelligent wireless access technologies, learn and adapt the dynamic fluctuations of the devices, the surroundings in particular. They have a method that will enable high-quality wireless communications even under challenging situations where many terminals need to communicate in an environment where radio channel conditions can degrade rapidly and in a complex manner due to the effects of moving shelves, pillars, people are right, and even machine tools inside factories. Yeah, you better believe it. We already shared all the highlights of some of this stuff, but you guys got to keep in mind when you look into it, even from this perspective, I know it's a little bit blurry, but come on, you can see how this is all going to work. How is it all going to work? Well, like I pointed out before, it's like a data ecosystem. Look what it says. Poor communication quality due to complex changes in the radio environment around individual devices. But if you have something, like they mentioned, taking even 5G to 6G, and how you can control all this with edge AI to improve the quality of data transmission. I mean, wow, pretty interesting. Because you can see how even IoT devices obviously are there. Talk about robotics. Remember how we use those examples from WITS? More IoT device sensors. Again, every time you see something about an IoT device, understanding where Jasmy is going to play a factor, because they have the patents in place. And if you're new to all this, again, go to the video sections. I don't know, some people told me I've probably done 10 times the amount of videos compared to the average person when it comes to research about Jasmyn. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here or anything, but again, let the research speak for itself. Take a look into it. Want to learn more about Jasmyn? Take a look into those videos. They are not time sensitive. So changes with associated terminal movement. Figure 1 aims, the aim of that, I should say, of wireless access control with lightweight AI in the selected project. There's background about this. I mean, just in case you didn't know about 6G, it was envisioned, right? They envisioned that by the 2030s, the use of industrial Internet of Things, which is not just called IoT, it's called IIoT. These terminals for factory automation, automated driving will expand. Wireless communications will become paramount for controlling and managing these devices. The quality of communications varies from instant to what? Instant, depending on ambient environment. Given this inherent instability, it is difficult to ensure reliable communications, minimal packet loss, low latency. Want to know something? It drives me nuts to get packet loss. In fact, I had to get rid of my last cable modem that was provided from my ISP, which is Cox Communications. And yeah, it's included on my monthly bill, but I didn't want to use that anymore. It was really, you could really tell it was like this old thing. I tried it out. As a result, for all you guys that have been watching me for a while, I was getting a lot of packet loss, and as a result, like I don't think I did a show for like a week or something. It was really bad. So I went to the store, and I got a brand new one that has never been used. But I like the idea of some of these things mentioned in regards to optimizing so there is no packet loss. Again, quality of data. Yeah, I covered Jasmy quite a bit, but guess what? Filecoin also stands at the forefront when it comes to quality data sets and the technologies that are involved in making that all happen. As you jump more into this particular one, take a look at this for a second, because this is big stuff. Never really gets mentioned. Industrial Internet of Things. When we talk about institutions, realize the Internet of Things, IoT, will scale up as well. How so? Well, it's the quality of wireless communications and how they vary from instant to instant depending on the ambient environment. Now, what about the terminals? Well, the whole thing of industrial Internet of Things terminals, they're going to have to meet strict quality service requirements. I like that. It says, in addition to control the communications of many industrial Internet of Things terminals, it is necessary to cope with their surrounding mobile environment that vary independently. Look at this. Optimizing communications through centralized control poses the challenge of sending and receiving information from a massive number of devices, thereby consuming large amounts of power, bandwidth to manage the wireless access of all terminals in real time. But your key takeaway, especially if you're a Jasmy holder, is where it says the power, the bandwidth, the management of wireless access, not just of some, but of all terminals in real time. When we talk about the concept of, as I would say, utility put into motion, that is your utility, and that is being put into motion big time, right? This is why I will never shut up about talking about Jasmy, period. It's understanding there's cryptocurrencies that are out there that will claim utility, and there's the ones that will put up or shut up because they have already taken the liberty to build from the ground up years before there was a public offering. Understand, Jasmy is not just 2021. Jasmy dates back to what, 2016, even before that, with the history of Sony. Or are we not paying attention to some of this stuff? Look at this for a second. So there's two key points to this research. Back to the whole thing about low power. Now we talk about Tadashi Morita. He's an expert when it comes to low voltage. So by combining a low power edge AI technology, namely a lightweight AI that can be used by edge devices such as IoT terminals with low capabilities in terms of computation and battery, with the goal of optimizing the wireless communications and sensing. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Tadashi Morita, for being a pioneer of IoT. Do we not understand the plugs and connections? We need to, because we understand that it don't matter what retail narrative you heard. Like I said, the research trumps FUD 110% because you know what you have and you know why you hold it. A little bit more about this. So by doing so, they have this aim to establish technologies that can achieve stable and reliable communications despite the rapid, complex changes of environmental or mobile environments in factories. Conventionally, they have been common to use base stations, controllers, management communications in a centralized manner, but the proposed lightweight Edge AI will enable many distributed terminals to optimize their wireless access to rapidly react to the dynamic fluctuations of their mobile surroundings. By having a whole concept of quick reaction with IoT, again, don't overthink it. That is a lot of utility being used. All right, I'm gonna get down to this next part. This is also good stuff. Goes into some of these figures about this collaboration. But I want to jump down to this diagram because some of you guys like seeing this, okay? So how does it all come together? Well, it's pretty simple. You have a base station, wireless LAN, cellular, et cetera, et cetera. Wireless signals being sent out through radio, you name it. Where is it captured? It's captured on those wireless devices. How can we reduce packet loss? Well, maybe for some of the things that we talked about earlier, but it's the whole concept of autonomous optimization of these things and the amount of packets transferred over multiple radios and how they can optimize what, guys? The data. I don't know about you guys. I get tired sometimes of the idea that I'm watching something I'm out in the middle of nowhere or whatever the case be. And it feels like it's the 90s again, where everything I'm watching is just all chopped up and it's super, buffering problems and so on. Forget that, forget all that. But you're going to ask something that's going to access this all with IoT and optimize that data set. Optimization of data sets. What kind of value is there? And this is just scratching the surface. We haven't even talked about what about the emergency services out there. Again, medical. They need to have that data, and they need to have it like that because it's somebody's life that's on the line. Being able to access medical data instantaneous and have the quality of those data sets transponded instantaneously, even in the example of a life-threatening situation such as an earthquake or another natural disaster, tsunami, you name it, hurricane, can be profound. Some of you guys ask what cold storage solution I use. I use this, and it is the Descent wallet. All right. I also, of course, have a ledger like this. All right. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, Will Fix pointed this out, and it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your significant other, you can get two of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Descent wallet is not having to do the red tape of jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out though if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that I kind of split it up on and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.